What's going on, everybody? Emmett Ferguson here, and this video is about the Amazon Kindle Oasis. So right now I've got the cover on for Amazon. This is the cover for the Amazon Kindle Oasis. And if you're watching this video, chances are you're either one of two types of people. Either you are looking to buy your first Kindle and you're trying to decide whether the the higher price of the Kindle Oasis is worth it compared to the Paperwhite or another version of the Kindle, or you might be upgrading from the Kindle Paperwhite and you're wondering, should you buy another Kindle Paperwhite or whether you should do a trade-in and trade up for a Kindle Oasis. So I'm going to try to tackle it from the perspective. This video comes from the perspective of having already experienced what it is to have an e-reading device, regardless of what brand it is, and why a Kindle Oasis might be more helpful to you. So if you're an active reader, someone that loves books, then you're probably already familiar with an e-reader. Now, I love books. I used to want to collect books and have the physical versions and love, flipping through the physical versions. But throughout my 20s, I'm 31 now, not that the age really matters that much, but throughout my 20s, I'd moved around a lot. I lived in four different major cities, and I went through a few different transitions in my life, and having to move lots and lot of books were incredibly difficult. In fact, I had to donate half of an entire collection of books that I had collected to a library, and I kept the other half, the ones that I felt that were more relevant to my life at the time. So just thinking about that might be one of the reasons why you decide to move from physical books into having a Kindle and collecting them through a Kindle device or whatever you choose. But regardless of that, this is the Kindle Oasis. So the Kindle Paperwhite, just to give an idea, the Kindle Paperwhite is about, I want to say, a little bit thinner. It's a little bit thinner, right? We're looking at about this length and maybe just a little bit taller, like a little bit taller. And with that, the Kindle Paperwhite is a little bit more of like a square shape or of a lower rectangle. So pretty similar settings. You open up and you can choose to either have the advertisement in the background when it turns on, or you can choose to get the Oasis version that does not do that. But I'm going to type in my password real quick. I'm going to go ahead and log on here. So of course you have the swipe option. I think you could adjust this in your settings, but we're going to go ahead and swipe to unlock after I've input my password. There's the book suggestions, of course, on the side here. I've got a couple books here: The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, The Magic of Believing, The Weave of My Life. So all of these books are ones that I have. And of course, a lot of the functions, if you have a Kindle already, you'll notice a lot of this is pretty much the same. They have the recommendations, they have suggestions for other books, upcoming releases. It's got the same functions at the top. Now, one thing about the Kindle Oasis is that it does have a Bluetooth function, and the Bluetooth function, I don't know if you can see it at the top, but the Bluetooth function basically allows you to connect your Kindle and your Audible to a Bluetooth speaker device, which allows you to listen to the book on audio. So if you are a all-in Amazon customer, you got Amazon Prime like I do, you love listening to Audible books on long trips, and you like having, depending on the book, I don't do this for every book, but there are some books that I like to read it, and then maybe a couple years down the road I don't want to read it again, but I want to listen to it. If you like that, you probably get the Audible version. So just to dive into one of these books, these settings are pretty much about the same for the Amazon Kindle Oasis versus the Paperwhite. But one thing that you'll find here that's a little bit different is, of course, it's wider. I think the screen just might be a little bit basically about the same. But one of the few big differences is this screen for the Kindle Oasis is completely flat across. Now, if you don't have the Kindle Paperwhite, real quick, the Kindle Paperwhite, and I don't know if it's, I'm talking about the 7th or the 8th edition. There might be like a 9th edition now or later that might have changed this. But the original, one of the earlier Paperwhites, there's like a 1 or 2 millimeter indent, right? So this is, as you can see, the Kindle Oasis is completely flat, but the Paperwhite had like a indent. Like, you know how you have like a phone screen and you're swiping on your phone, but on your phone you also have, like, if you have a case on it, it kind of comes up on the edge, so you can't quite swipe all the way across. For, like, if you're playing a video, you're trying to swipe the video to the beginning, but you can't swipe all the way across because the edge pops up and it doesn't let you hit the edge of the screen. So the Kindle Paperwhite is like that, except now the Kindle Oasis, this Kindle Oasis, is completely flat across, so you can swipe all the way across. Now, the Kindle Paperwhite, it didn't really affect anything. It's not like a phone where you can't quite hit, all the way across, and sometimes it's necessary, because, a little swipe across the middle of the screen is plenty enough on a Paperwhite. But, on a Paperwhite, sometimes if you need to highlight something, like if you're highlighting something and you need to go all the way across, it can be tough when you have to worry about that little gap there, because your finger can't quite touch the edge. And there's ways to do it. That's not a breaker for the that's not a deal breaker for the Kindle Paperwhite versus the Oasis, but it's just something that I noticed after having had the Paperwhite and the Oasis. So Paperwhite, Oasis, battery lifespan. There are reviews that talk about, the battery lifespan of the Oasis is a little less, simply because, there's so many more functions. You can turn the pages up and down simply by pressing these buttons. The Kindle Oasis also has these detectors here, as you can see. So it has these detectors that detect the amount of light and that can adjust the light for you. Now, I didn't actually like that function when I started using it, so I simply turned it off. And I do happen to like these buttons though sometimes, because I could just hold it on the edge and there's no accidental swipes on a page or anything. And with that, it's pretty simple to hold. You can do it one-handed. You scroll up, scroll down, and it's pretty self-explanatory. The only difference is, in terms of this function, is you get to press the buttons as opposed to on the Kindle Paperwhite. Now, there are some other cool things that are included with the Oasis that they don't quite capture with the Paperwhite, is in the settings. So in the settings, you can adjust the brightness, of course, which you could also do with the Paperwhite, but you can also adjust the warmth. So I don't know if you could tell right now, but you can make it as the page color darker, or you can make it lighter. I hope you could see this, but basically the page, it's not brightness, but the page warmth, as they call it, can change all the way across. So depending on what you like to look at, whether you look at those classic books that have like the beige or the really brown pages, then you'll want more warmth. But if you have, books with the really crisp white pages, then you'll probably want less warmth. And of course, you could also schedule it. Part of the function has to do with when you're reading at night versus during the day. And with the Paperwhite, it is a little bit wider, but basically, you could turn it off and on with this button at the top. The charging times, for me, it wasn't really that big of a deal. I read at night, I read at home. Occasionally I take it out with me to work or whatever, and in between breaks I can read this. So in between times that I read this out, I usually make it home before I really need to charge it. So, if you're concerned about traveling and the possibility of losing your charger, and you're going to be traveling for like an entire weekend, and you constantly travel for the entire weekend, you forget your charger all the time, then this will probably last you at least a day or two of like 100% reading. But so far I've charged this about 3 times since I got it a few months ago, and I don't read it every day. I read it like a couple times a week. Actually, since I picked up the Oasis, I've been pretty busy, so I haven't been able to read as much as I want to. But it's lasted me. And with that, some of these settings are pretty standard compared to the Paperwhite. I don't know what the comparison is to any other ones, but let's see what else. Oh yeah, one other interesting thing. Let me see. I don't know if I could do it from here. Oh yeah, right here. So A. So you could change the text. I don't remember if this was a function of... I don't remember whether this was a function in the Paperwhite or not. I traded mine in, and I got like I think 20. They do a trade-in deal where you get like a certain percentage off, and then they give you a gift card to go towards your purchase of the Oasis. So I went ahead with that. I had my Paperwhite for about 2 or 3 years before I decided to do a trade-in because I was just curious and curious about what the Oasis was all about. You could change the font, as you can see. You can make it as bold, or in case you prefer to have it less bold, more bold or less bold. You can have the size go bigger for those of you that need bigger size for reading, which is fantastic, for depending on your eyesight. I'm nearsighted, so I need smaller text. And one great thing is you could change the font. You can literally change the font to something that appeals to you. So let's just look at the different fonts. They got Cecilia, Futura. Let's just tap that. Futura. Hope Cecilia. Open. This is called Open Dyslexic. I'm not sure exactly what that means. And then there's Palatino. So you can change the font. I don't know if you see this forward or backward of the letters, so it might look weird to you. But basically, you get the point. You can change the font. You can change the way the text looks as it appeals to you. So a little bit more customizable in terms of your reading style. So if you like that customization, if you like to be able to change the spacing, the alignment, the margins, I don't know if the new Paperwhite allows you to do that, so I don't want to say that this is an Oasis-only function. But there's some great other functions that I don't really use because I got so used to the Paperwhite. I haven't really needed to use all of the extra functions, but it's there if you want to, and I'm sure that it's nice to have. And on top of that, let's see. Let's go back to the. Actually, I think the Paperwhite did have options. This letter thing looks familiar. So, of course, you still got the same functions. You got the search function at the top, go to your page, do the research. As far as the reading style goes, it's pretty much the same. So we'll go back to the home. You do the scrolling up and down. And I think with the Kindle Oasis and Paperwhite, they both have options for you to, visit the store, connect to Wi-Fi, and things like that. So real quick, they got the experimental browser and all that. And one thing, I don't remember if the Paperwhite has a version. I didn't get the Wi-Fi, the internet version. There's a version of the Kindle for the Paperwhite or Oasis that allows you to stay connected to the internet. You get your own internet service with your Kindle. And the Oasis version has one of those, but this is not it. And also, there's another version of the Kindle, as you remember seeing earlier. Let me turn this off real quick. So with the cover, you can flip it and it automatically closes. And then when you turn on, it shows that ad. So when you turn it on, you can actually buy an Oasis version that allows you not to see ads. But, I think for the cost and everything, I don't mind seeing the ads and recommendations sometimes, especially if they're good ones. Now, I have had times where they've given me some really unusual recommendations, like a really, a really steamy romance novel while I'm opening up in public around people. And I'm like, oh, well, does this I wonder if the person who happens to see me opening up thinks I like steamy romance novels, which I haven't read them, so I can't say whether I like them or not. I haven't even read 50 Shades of Grey. But anyway, this is an option that I'm pretty sure you could take off, but you have to pay a little more to Amazon, which, it's all up to you. And, the final thing that you'll probably consider is some of the things that come with it, some of the options that you might look at. So I went with the recommended stuff, the protection devices that were recommended. So this is the Amazon recommended cover. It's even got the Amazon logo on it. And I haven't dropped this one yet. I dropped my Paperwhite a few times, but this looks pretty sturdy. It's got enough space for you to be able to plug in and everything. It feels pretty sturdy and well made. And that it can absorb impact. And one other thing that I got was, you can't really tell on this, or maybe you can, but there's a screen cover there. As you could tell, there's like little gaps there, right? Like where the holes are. So that's from the screen cover. So the screen protector, that you lay it over, and they give you, I think it was like 2 screen covers. So you get 2 shots at this. If you don't do well with screen covers, you might want to try to find somebody to do it for you. I think screen covers are worth it, screen protectors. And it just lays straight across. It took me about 3 tries. The first one I tried twice with the first cover, and I just couldn't quite get it right. So on the second one, I was fortunately able to do it well, and there was no bubbles, nothing underneath. And it's great because on the Kindle Paperwhite, as I mentioned earlier, there's like a little gap, right? There's a surface gap, a gap between the outer piece of the Kindle and then the screen itself. So this one just flat across. You literally just lay it all the way flat across, and it lays very well. It stays on there pretty well. And yeah, that's basically it. If there's anything else, oh yeah, so one other thing that makes this a little different is that, I don't know why exactly, I'm guessing it's a technical feature because it has to have, you know, a battery and extra functions and more space. I think I got the one with more storage. So with that, there is a bigger whole thing here, right? So the Kindle Paperwhite is just like maybe this size from my hand forward, right? And then it doesn't have like this big thing. It's just flat all the way across. So I don't know whether this is purposely designed or whether it's a technical thing to hold things, like the microchips or whatever. But some people might like it. I just thought I'd mention it. You know, this does help give me some extra grip to hold on to it when I'm reading at night. So if I'm reading at night, I can, you know, just kind of hold on to it. I have something somewhere to put my fingers. Some people might like that, but it is something that's different than the regular Paperwhite. Overall, I think the Kindle Oasis is a great reading tool, especially if you have a lot of books, and it connects to Goodreads. So whether you like that privacy or not, or whether you like to connect with people who like to read or not, you can update those privacy settings. Overall, Amazon did an amazing job with the Kindle Oasis. I love my Paperwhite, and I've loved the Kindle Oasis so far. And this is just something that if you love reading, if you love to have books on hand, if maybe you travel a lot, or you do work that has a lot of like off time, or you do other sorts of things where you have a lot of time to read, then this is an absolutely amazing tool to be able to keep books with you. I mean, me personally, it's tough for me to stick with one book all the way through, even like regular fiction books. I like to get like ideas and hear about different topics, and then move on to another book, and then at some point I might finish it and all of that. But I like to read a variety. I like to have my variety. So to have multiple books in one thing is absolutely fantastic, instead of having to carry 5 or 10 different books. Although I still get physical books now and then. I still get paperbacks and hardcovers and things like that. But just to have this available. Oh yeah, I mean, one other thing. If you're watching this and you've never, and I can't imagine, if you've never had this experience before, but just this one feature alone, I think, is worth it for any of these reading e-readers. Just knowing this one idea is that you can get the definition of a word simply by highlighting it. So if you've ever read a book and you're just reading through and you're confused because you don't know what a word means, and it's like, well, what does that mean? Or something like that. And then you get stuck trying to understand an idea. Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, I think this is one of the greatest features in existence for reading. I mean, even like it's great that you could change the warmth. It's great that you could change the brightness. It's great that you could bring a ton of books with you at once. But more valuable than anything is this idea that you never have to get stuck trying to figure out a word. So let's just pick a word here. Let's see. Images, visualize, everything. Opportunities. Yeah, so let's take the word opportunities here. I just held on to the word, and I could go here, and I could just open dictionary. And it gives me the definition. So you never have to have like a dictionary and a regular word with you. You could just look up the words right there and then. So opportunity, a set of circumstances that makes it possible to do something. Special uses, a chance for employment or promotion, career opportunities. And there's opportunity cost, and then all these other words. So it's an absolutely amazing dictionary. I think this dictionary is a little bit even more in-depth than a regular paperweight. So if you like that feature, this will be even more valuable to you. But again, personally, I look up words all the time. Oh wait, so here we go. This one automatically came up with the dictionary, and you can actually open up the dictionary to get a more extensive dictionary. But so far, I think that's one of the top features. So I'm glad I remembered it before the end of this video, because there's so many words that I've been reading through in a regular book, and I'm just reading, and I'm like, I just get stuck on a word because I forget what it means, or I just skip past it, and I'm like, oh, I'll get back to that later. But just to have that right in hand, and just to be able to pick any word and say, oh, certainly, that means undoubtedly, definitely, sure, yeah. And then every once in a while there's a what exactly is journalism? The activity or profession of writing for newspapers or magazines, or broadcasting news or radio or television. All right, so there you go. I mean, sometimes understanding a simple word can have a huge benefit, and that feature alone is just worth so much. Whether you get the Oasis, or whether you get the Paperwhite, or the base version of Kindle, and even I think they have like a more advanced version. I forget what all their versions out right now are, but regardless of which one you get. If you love reading and you also value the idea of being able to have a dictionary available at the tap, literally a 3-second tap of your finger to get a definition of it, that is so invaluable, or so valuable, I should say. I mean, invaluable as in, it's tough to measure the value of, so that you can get through a book reading material and just know it, know the stuff. Anyway, that was one of my favorite features. It might be, someone else might like the warmth. Maybe you like simply the fact that this has this extra holding section right here where you could, just put your hands on, and you don't have to worry about accidentally tapping the page. You get a little bit of extra space to work with. And I'm not exactly sure. I think you might even be able to, let me see if you can turn this. I'm trying to figure this out right now. Let's see. I'm trying to see if you could flip layout. Here we go. So orientation, and you can actually change the orientation to be like that. Wow, that's pretty neat, huh? You change the orientation to be up and down, and all that. So, hope I didn't lose my page there. Anyway, I've gotten so used to reading in the regular orientation that, that happens to be the one I'm comfortable with, so I'll stick to that. But a lot of great options here with the Kindle Oasis. The paperweight was great. It was great too. And I'm glad I was able to use that. And the Kindle Oasis is, for someone who loves these extra features and, loves to read, loves the paperweight and all that. So with that, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope it was helpful to you, and have a wonderful day. Happy reading.